Oh, oh, not again. No. Oh, oh, oh. Does this scene look familiar? Do you too suffer from explosive diarrhea, flippity bibbity flarts, big bad stinky winkies, little teeny tiny rabbit poopies all the time? Well, you're in luck, because your remedy is here. That's right, Game Face by John Wayne Comunale, guaranteed to clear up all the grumbly wumblies and peeny weenies that are jumping around inside there, making you sad. For example, nightmares about his Uncle Gene started the moment he closed his eyes until he opened them again. In the dreams, Blake saw his uncle in the audience of game shows watching from the camera's point of view without the buffer of a television screen. He was stuck within the machinations of the camera itself, unable to escape its confines. He saw his uncle in every audience that panned across the eye of his nightmare. Though there were many different versions of Uncle Gene, each one was experiencing various forms of inexplicable horror. One Uncle Gene was screaming and waving emphatically, trying to get Blake's attention, only no sound came out of him. He appeared to be stuck in his chair, but a moment later, Blake realized it was because he had no legs. His torso had been fused to the seat. In another audience, his uncle purposely avoided looking into the camera to the extent his head made a full 360-degree rotation, revealing he had no face. No matter what angle Blake's camera eye looked, he could only see the back of his uncle's head. There was another audience comprised of nothing but his uncle. Every seat in every row was taken by a different version of Uncle Gene, and not just age-wise. Some of the variants appeared to be of an alien species, while others were odd hybrid creatures with clawed and tentacled appendages. Despite the makeup, each was inexplicably recognizable as Blake's uncle. One eerie instance included an audience filled with versions of his uncle when he was at the end of his life. Only in the dream, he seemed somehow older than Blake remembered him looking. They were withered and sad looking, not all like his uncle was in reality. They sat stone still and silent, staring at something just outside of Blake's view. Just before Blake woke up, he saw his uncle sitting alone in an otherwise empty studio audience. Uncle Gene sat dead center while the rest of the bleachers burned around him with an angry heat. He didn't try to escape or call for help. Uncle Gene sat in his seat as the fire grew closer, and he laughed. Actually, he giggled. It was the same giggle he made when they saw him in the audience of the match game all those Thanksgivings ago. Blake could hear the maddening cadence of it ring through his head and quickly decay as he opened his eyes and sat up in bed. He was sweating as if he'd been sitting in actual burning bleachers, and his sheet cocoon clung to his damp skin. He peeled away the moist sheet and got out of bed, nearly tripping on his discarded pants before taking his first step. He didn't remember if he'd left the TV on before his nap, but when the familiar theme song kicked in, he didn't care. And his entire focus shot like a laser toward the program he wasn't watching for the questions, joke answers, and real answers, or even Steve Harvey's famous mugs to the camera. For him, they were just filler between quick shots of the studio audience. Blake had no interest in the game. He was looking for Uncle Gene. It didn't take long to find him. When the family introductions were wrapping up, the camera cut to the audience, laughing at a hacky Harvey quip. Toward the top right in the last row of the bleachers sat the same version of Uncle Gene he'd seen the night before, younger than he was when he died, but not by much, and he was not laughing. His lack of mirth wasn't the only reason the man stuck out from the brainless knee slappers surrounding him. It happened quick. So fast, Blake nearly missed it, but he'd been ready this time. Or ready for something at least. He'd been keeping a tight hold on the remote with his fingers positioned over the correct buttons this time, and he was able to pause the program just at the right moment. It was faint, but clear enough for Blake to know he wasn't imagining what he was seeing. Frozen in the frame on screen was his Uncle Gene wearing a pensive expression, his eyes looking far to the right like a child giving a last look over his shoulder for an authority figure before plunging his hand into the cookie jar. There was no cookie jar, but his uncle was holding his hand up, palm facing the camera. In real time, he'd flashed it quickly as if giving a small wave to the camera, but the still image showed there was more to the fleeting gesture. Very clearly, written on the palm of his uncle's hand were the words, "Help me." Wow, I feel better already. Hey friend, how we doing in there? I've got something to help you out. Well, I think that about says it. Game face! For all the slippery sloppies rolling around inside, trying to come out your butt.